Number 7. Peeping Tom. It was late, the kind of late when normal people are asleep, but this dude, he was awake enough to hear something weird right outside of his apartment. He decided to go and check, armed with his balls of steel at stupid o'clock. Well, that is until something caught his eye. Something absolutely petrifying. Let's watch. Is that the getup that roof-toppers are cutting about in now? The original poster seems to believe it was someone or something wearing a mask, which narrows down the possibilities significantly, because how would any kind of ghost be able to keep a mask on?
Dr. Jonathan Jacobo.
And somehow, the idea of a random person in a creepy mask poking their head over the side of a rooftop is scarier. What was their end goal? The mask isn't on screen for very long, but it doesn't appear to move at all, and the head is positioned at a very unnatural angle. The texture of the skin also seems so real. Could this guy have accidentally come face to face with a cryptid? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Number 6. Life on the Ranch. Brit loves nothing more than her family and her horses. Life on the ranch is nothing but pure bliss. Oh, aside from the creepy ass cemetery in her front garden. As she spent more time there on her own, she realised that a lot of the animals seemed to be drawn to those gravestones. According to Brit, the same 4 cows would come, form a kind of circle around the cemetery, and just freeze, staying there for hours at a time, just staring into space. It isn't just the random cows either. Her dog Josie is also extremely sus about that cemetery. After she posted those videos of the animals losing it over the crosses, people began questioning her, wondering why the hell she has all those graves in the front garden. Looking through some comment sections, we were able to find this comment she left, confirming that she knew who was buried there, her grandparents and their cats. She gradually started feeling more and more unsettled though, because she started having more strange experiences. She would swear she saw figures inside the house, sensing some kind of presence that didn't feel at all friendly, which is why she was so freaked out when this happened, and she was able to catch it on her security camera. While collecting her takeaway order, something lashed out at her, and it wasn't the delivery driver. That doesn't seem like friendly grandparent ghost behaviour. She walks the driver back to his car. He was clearly a bit freaked out by those frozen cows, and she heads back in, only to realise something had set her burglar alarm off, and then something yanked on her t-shirt sleeve. You can see clearly in the video the grip on the fabric. It folds as if her hand were holding it super tightly. A few commenters seemed a bit suspicious that she just stood and waited in the doorway for a few seconds before she walked any further into the house. She could have been waiting for someone to get their cue so they could pull off this stunt. But how would they even manage that? Her reaction looked genuine as well. So what could be going on here? Do you have any ideas? Let us know any theories down in the comments. A poltergeist told me you enjoy scary videos like this, but don't subscribe just yet. We'll earn your subscription by the end of this scary compilation. Number 5. It wasn't me. This video was sent to us via email by our Canadian viewer Olivia Tremblay. Big shout out to her. Her friend sent her this video and we were itching to have a look. According to Olivia, this clip was obtained through a secret camera her friend installed after she kept coming home and discovering her kitchen cupboard door broken. Convinced it was her son, she went and confronted him, but he swore up and down he was innocent. This happened a few more times and she became increasingly frustrated with her son not taking any responsibility. So, she thought she would set up a camera to catch him red-handed, except the footage she caught showed a much more sinister turn of events. Well, at least that's her son out of the doghouse. The story behind this clip feels quite genuine, and surely we would see any shadows from anyone pulling any strings off to the side, and the first cupboard opening and shutting couldn't have been done with a string anyway. So what the hell is going on in that house? Maybe they need to invest in some sturdy padlocks. Number 4. Statue of Skemet. Ancient Egyptian mythology is some of the most interesting out there, and Johanna James over on Funny Old World adores exploring it all. But when she's sneaking into the Al-Karnak temple in Egypt, she realised that it might all be a bit more disturbing than she first thought. This temple houses a certain statue of the goddess Skemet. Johanna and her team were ready to capture all the photos and drink in the experience, but there was something off about the room with the statue in. She made 2 reels on Facebook explaining what happened, and her experience was unsettling to say the least.
I felt like somebody had cattle prod the back of my neck. I had such a huge electrical surge through my body that the hair on my legs and arms and everywhere was standing on end, and I got like instant pins and needles through my body, which I'd never experienced before. So since last year, one of the members of the tour had the funding to send back equipment to test for electromagnetic activity. And turns out, yeah, the statue is emitting large amounts of electromagnetic energy. Nowhere else in the room, just the statue. And like I said before, there is no electrical equipment in the building. There is nothing. A lot of places in Egypt have put modern lighting in for the tourists, but this is not a tourist area. It doesn't have anything of that kind. You see the pictures. So where was I? This is a professional photograph done by a photographer who had his camera that he's had since he was 16 years old. And this camera is particularly good at taking very clear photos in low light conditions. He absolutely freaked out when he discovered that he could not focus his camera on this statue. And this weird, like, double exposed photo really baffled him, and he sent this photo off to his team back in Saudi Arabia to say, is there an issue with the camera? Is this a double exposed photograph of like two photos over another? Is his camera broken? What's going on? So the camera forensic people got back to him and said, no, this photo is not motion blur and it is not double exposed. This is some weird, this is what the camera captured when it was trying to focus on the statue and couldn't. For reference, here is a photo taken in another similar chamber with similar lighting. Same camera in the same temple complex, similar lighting thing. This is the kind of photo that you should be able to take at 22. This photo was taken this week on the most recent tour, also taken by a professional photographer with his camera. Now, at first, I didn't notice anything wrong with this photo, right? It's just a person who's walking in front of the statue and it's got a bit blurry. Except that's not a person. The man took a photo of the statue with nobody in the room. This is not a person. This is nobody on the tour. Okay, here is an enhanced image of the photograph before, and you can see that this is not like a solid or this was not a human that was in the room.
One of the primary signs of ghostly activity is dodgy cameras. While the blurry photo of the statue could well be motion blur, clearly the guy using it is a pro, so why would only that photo be blurry? But it isn't just the statue that's blurry, it is the entire photo, including the background and everything. So what could it actually be? The electromagnetic energy emitting from the statue is super creepy as well. If only the statue is emitting it, surely there has to be something spooky going on. There are multiple statues of Skemet dotted around Egypt, mostly carved out of a material called granodiorite, a rock similar to granite. Granodiorite often contains magnetite. This material makes EMF readers go crazy. Could they have simply stood too close to a magnetic material, and that was what made everyone's hair stand on end?
In all of them, I took like maybe 20 pictures of them, and it's all the same, and that's the crazy thing. With this, if I literally move one step, the light frequency changes.
Yes.
And this, from multiple angles, I was getting the same thing. It was so freaky. I mean, this, I was right behind you. I used you. You see, the light is reflecting off your head.
Yeah.
But when I go next to it, there's nothing. And this.
The rest of the team also said their photos didn't turn out the way they expected them to, which is definitely weird, but the photos were only weird seemingly when the flash was being used. Could it be something within the material, or the lighting in the room interacting with the cameras?
It's very specifically placed just there. As all ancient sites are in the world, they're on very specific hotspots for energy points, ley lines, if you want to call them that, or electromagnetic anomaly centers. Maybe, just maybe, the ancients were specifically building their sites on these places for reasons other than simply religious. Maybe they were functional as well. If you're into dimension theory and anything like that, I wondered whether or not Karnak was on some sort of weak spot between dimensions, maybe, possibly.
The strange thing about this whole thing though is the fact that Johanna says in one of her videos that the segment of the temple she visited with Skemet inside is off limits to the general public, when that isn't true. The specific statue of Skemet is said to be the oldest one to remain exactly where it was first placed. So she's quite the tourist attraction. There are loads of tours conducted and many photos produced of her. Did Johanna not know this, or was she perhaps trying to build up some more mystique? Do you know anything about this statue? Is Skemet secretly messing with everyone's camera settings and nerves? Or is there another explanation for this? Number 3. Mirror Mirror. This terrifying footage was sent in to us by someone we have featured on this channel before. In an email, Pixie Paranormal explained to us that ever since the activity we last saw from her, it had become 10 times worse. She says the activity is getting much more aggressive. One night, whilst laying in bed with her children, she heard a horrific sound, so she whipped out her phone to record what she could, and the footage she caught was mind-blowing. Take a look.
Go up here.
Look at my mirror.
Oh, you went the wrong way. What?
My mirror's cracking by itself.
What's happening? Wait. Wait, stop.
Harry, my mirror is cracking by itself.
It's cracked twice so far. Why is it cracking by itself?
I have no fucking idea.
She says that before she pulled the camera out, the crack at the bottom had already happened, and she was able to catch the second one. In her email, she detailed to us that after she put her phone down, they took the mirror outside and it shattered into tiny pieces right there in their garden before she could even press record again.
Oh, you went the wrong way. What?
My mirror's cracking by itself.
She also said that the night before she caught this footage, she had conducted an investigation in an old graveyard and believes something followed her home. Could it have something to do with the mirror cracking? The mirror wasn't anything old or haunted. She said she got it from the range. There's no weird or creepy history there. So what happened? And if you're calling it fake already, imagine how many mirrors she would have to go through to get the right shot. Plus, how can you crack a mirror like that on camera without touching it? Sound? Pretty sure your eardrums would crack first. Someone behind the wall poking the wood? Yeah, very unlikely. While it does seem incredibly jammy that she was able to start recording just in time to catch one of the cracks, but the rest of the mirror then shattered off camera. Who knows what really happened for it to crack like that? Any theories? Well, what we do know, however, is that the family is in the market for a new mirror.
Oh, you went the wrong way. What?
My mirror's cracking by itself.
Number 2. Strange echoes. While exploring the area around an abandoned building in Scotland, this guy was shocked when he realised that it might not be so abandoned after all. He already felt the strange tendrils of dread creeping up his throat as he tiptoed around the place, so he pulled out his phone and pressed record to see if what he could hear would pick up on camera. And oh boy, did it.
It is a ghost.
Just a wind.
Mate. Must be a ghost. No, it's a ghost.
It's a fucking ghost.
There's nothing else there. What else could it be?
See? Really?
I told you it was fucking haunted.
No matter how much you zoom in, edit, or crop, you can't see anyone. But at around the 1 minute mark, when the boarding on the window opens up, just in the right corner, you can see something. It's not clear enough to properly make any deductions. It could be anything. But it's obvious that there's something in there. It could be the wind making all the noise. It wouldn't be doing it in those kinds of patterns. It all seems so eerie, but what do you think?
There's nothing else there.
Number 1. foul play. One night, while trying to relax in bed, this woman's daughter came tiptoeing into her room, asking if she could sleep with her that night. She was reluctant to say why, but alluded to a strange feeling in her bedroom. After a little while, her mum realised why her daughter was so scared.
My daughter is sleeping with me in my bed tonight. She kept saying that she was really scared of something in her room. I'm a little bit shaky. I don't know if you guys can tell, but so this is the same toy that used to go off in the past, and it's always terrified me since. Because I would ask it questions and it would answer with noises.
Now, the tractor going off could be any number of things. Battery-powered toys can malfunction for a number of reasons. But that's not the creepy thing here. Check out that weird arm. As she backs away from the table at the end, the pointing finger gently rises. How the hell could it do that? Now, there aren't that many people in the market for human arm replicas, so we aren't experts. But they don't seem like the kind of things to have a battery pack in them. There could be anyone pulling a string unless they were somehow gripping onto the ceiling. Why would you even own something like that in the first place? Of all the items to be haunted, it's definitely going to be that one.
With noises.
Suddenly, a growl fills the air, giving the man a serious fright. He freezes, staring at a horror no one would. This video shows us something that seems pretty strange to the mind of an individual. A ghost. But not any ghost. The family living there freak out. The main thing in the video is this ghost that we can't see, but is definitely there.